Wicks Electric Inc. and a proud 2011 BCITAA alumnus of the School of Construction and Environment. Adam began his electrical apprenticeship at BCITAA in 2007 with one goal in mind: to acquire and master the necessary skills to start his own business. Building a reputation for a business that provides outstanding workmanship and customer service while providing people with a job they love has always been the source of Adam's excitement and inspiration. He has established a team of first-class electricians, one who share his passion for the trade and who portray the same positive energy. Adam believes in building long-lasting and trusting relationships with all of his clients, and that this will be the key to his success. I encourage you all to please give a warm round of applause to Adam.
Everyone, it is my pleasure to be here speaking at the BCITAA AGM. Nancy, Charity, thank you for having me. Let's have a round of applause for the BCITAA staff and alumni. I am here today not because I'm a public speaker. I'm here today because I have a story to tell. I'm here today because through hard work and dedication, I have built a successful business in an extremely competitive market. I am here today Sorry? Oh. Do you need it?
No.
Okay.
Do
you need a mic? Okay, good. I'm here today because I have a story to tell. Okay. The theme of today's talk is stories. Our ancestors have been telling stories for thousands of years. A few years ago, a friend of mine had challenged me to view my life as a story, to view every day as a sentence and every month as a paragraph. And he challenged me and asked me if I was writing a story that I was proud of. So what an interesting concept, to view your life as a story. So today I'm going to let you into my personal life. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to recommend some stories to you guys, and I'm going to ask you to analyze your own stories. So I grew up on Bowen Island, surrounded by nature, music, and love. My dad was a carpenter by day, a musician by night, and my mom was a nurse. Around the age of 10 years old, interest rates had skyrocketed, and it forced us off of Bowen Island and into the city. Between that time and the age of 20, we moved about 7 times. So we eventually settled in North Vancouver, where I graduated high school. Now, upon graduation, I had like many kids, upon graduation, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Finances were not our family's strong suit, so if I was going to go to post-secondary, I was going to accumulate a debt. So I took the summer off, and a family friend was a carpenter, and he had asked me to come and help him on a construction site. So I did just that. And that summer, I kind of fell in love with working with my hands, and I fell in love with trades. And I remember my dad always saying that if he could do it all over again, he would be an electrician. So with that in mind, by the end of the summer, I had decided that I would become an electrician, and I would go to trade school. I originally did have plans to start my own business. Initially, I knew that would be my end game. I always enjoyed teaching, I always enjoyed leading, but I had no idea what the universe had in store for me. So my first month of my electrical apprenticeship, I fell and I sprained my MCL on a job site. I was rushed to the hospital, and the doctors had mentioned that, yes, you have a sprain in your MCL in your distal femur right here, and it's pretty bad, but behind that sprain, there's a shaded region. They said probably not a big deal, a cyst or something, so nothing to worry about. That not such a big deal cyst ended up being a giant cell bone tumor the size of my fist. So I don't know if you guys know much about giant cell bone tumors, but they're typically cancerous. If you have one, there's usually more spread throughout your body, and They're about 1 in 200,000, so lucky me. But I was lucky. There was one, it wasn't cancerous, and 6 months later, I was 30 pounds lighter and back to work. But I was a changed man. When I went in and started my apprenticeship, I was 19 years old, best shape of my life, on top of the world, felt invincible. And then for a few weeks before I had the biopsy, I didn't know if that was a cancerous tumor. I had no idea. So it really put things in perspective. It really slowed life down. So in the months after surgery, I started to contemplate, and I started to contemplate what I really wanted to do with my life, and I set some goals. One of the goals I set was to start my own business. I promised myself that when I got my electrical ticket, I would start my own company. So 4 years later, with nothing but my BCITAA diploma in hand and a burning ambition, I did just that. I incorporated my business, Wicks Electric. I started doing small jobs and service calls working out of the back of my Jeep. I barely had enough money to afford the tools that I needed for the job, for the business at the time. And 4 years later, I stand in front of you, and it blows my mind to say 10 full-time staff, and our estimated revenues this year are well over $1 million. The one thing I do want to talk about are, well, a few things that I want to talk about. One of them being along the route, along the way to starting the business, all the negativity that I would get from outsiders, because I had this ambitious goal, and I would explain to others about my plans to start my company. And I would of course, I would get some support, but I would also get a lot of negative feedback, and people saying you're too young, and you need a business degree, and you need to hire a business professional. But I knew in my heart that I was building something special, and I knew that nothing would stop me. I think one of the most important things, the most paramount things in my success has been the ability to fail. To go out there with a burning ambition and a goal and goals and a plan, and as failure comes, taking the failure as a failure, but not letting it get you down. Taking every failure as a learning lesson and getting better from each one. And if you set out there with that burning ambition, or you set those goals, and you take every failure as a learning lesson, and you get better, faster, stronger from each of those, then you'll be successful no matter what you do. I also, with the haters and the failure, and another extremely important thing to have is a strong support system. So some of my good friends and family members are here today, so thank you guys so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. And I recommend to anyone in the room that doesn't have a strong support system to go and find it. Either you're joining a gym, or you're joining a networking group, or a group of folks that have aligned morals and values that you do, that will support you in your ambitions and in your cause. So enough about me. As I mentioned, I have a couple stories that I want to recommend. Stories as in novels. More slides than I thought. All kinds of support. It's awesome. So with no formal business training at all, my family, my parents particularly, my older brother were extremely important in helping me with the failures and the process of the business. But there's also a few business books, or a few books that help me so much in business, and I'm a huge advocate of this. So I'm sure this may not apply to many of you in the room, but if you have friends or family or folks that are setting out on these ambitious journeys, or they're going to start their own companies, these are great books to pass along. So Think and Grow Rich is a book. What I really got from this was Manifest Destiny. Who in the room knows what manifestation is? So Manifest Destiny is essentially using your brain to get you somewhere. I mean, it's about thinking about being somewhere before you're actually there, and putting that energy out there into the universe. So for instance, when I was a second or third year apprentice, I would visualize getting up in the morning and making my coffee and driving to the job site and seeing my guys and going to see my clients and picking up checks. And I visualize from A to Z my whole entire day. And 4 years later, honestly, everything that I manifested has come true. So I really recommend reading that if you haven't. Another one of my favorite books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This book essentially teaches you just to be a good person and how to build relationships in business. And whether it's business or your personal life, or wherever it is you are in the world, building relationships is so key. So it talks about things like a proper handshake and using someone's first name and actually developing a genuine interest and care in the other party. Now, I've always had an interest in people, and I've always loved building relationships. So, I mean, this is one of the reasons that I've had such success so far, is I've built these relationships with our clients and with our contractors, because I genuinely care about them, and they know that. So when it comes to projects and when it comes to jobs, they choose us because of the relationships we've built. Just two or three weeks back, I had a meeting with a designer, and I researched him beforehand. I found out he was interested in road bikes, Harley Davidsons, and bird watching. Yeah, never floats your boat. And this was the dude that designed he was the dude that designed Hootsuite. So it was a big deal, like a potential huge connection for us. So we sat there, and you think bringing up, talking about someone's interest would bore them after a while, and I would continuously bringing up his interest, and I just snuck them in there. I want him to know that I researched him in too much depth, but you would think that he would get sick of it, but he went on for hours. We didn't even talk business. The last 5 minutes, he handed me 3 contracts and said he had about 10 people to introduce me to. But that's how developing business relationships work. So extremely amazing book. I really recommend you guys read that. So after you apply all these ambitious principles, you got to find a way to ground yourself. And you got to find a way to de-stress. And something that I really recommend is meditation. So some form of meditation. It doesn't have to be your standard standard form of meditation. It can be anything that takes you out of the past, out of the future, and puts you in the present. So for me, playing guitar, or snowboarding, or running, or the gym, whatever makes you forget about the day-to-day stresses, and it refreshes you, it regrounds you. So, so, so important. And of course, I mean, this is one of Oprah's favorites. Really, it's a great book, but it just teaches you so much. It's a very special book. I highly recommend it. I recommend it to all my friends that are here right now. A handful of them are already reading it, so that's it. That's all the time I have for today. I really appreciate you guys having me here, and I challenge you to start looking at your lives as a story. Thank you.